Hi everyone, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks. And just today, Wargaming have announced there's going to be a new challenge to be able to get another Tier 8 Premium French medium tank. It is the AltProto AMX 30. Now, I'm not going to be talking about how good the tank is today. You're going to have to wait for Friday for my full tank review, which of course will include gameplay. Today I'm going to be breaking down what is called the Legend of the Hunter Challenge, where you have an opportunity to be able to get the new Tier 8 French Premium Medium Tank for a meaty discount, or even, if you got a lot of time on your hands, completely for free. So this challenge will begin this Friday, the 26th of November, and last for 10 days. Including that day. It's going to run until the 6th of December, which is a Monday, but be warned that it will end very early in the morning on the Monday, so don't think you could come home after work and be able to finish off the challenge. As with previous challenges, you're going to have two choices about the way you want to get through. Either you can do what Wargaming call missions for mastery, where you have to do an exceedingly difficult challenge in your Tier 9 or Tier 10 tanks, or alternatively, you can grind base experience in all of your Tier 6 and above vehicles. To make it easier for you all to see exactly what the rewards are and how difficult it's going to be, I have put it into an Excel spreadsheet in true QuickyBaby fashion, so you can check it all out here. Let me quickly break this down for you. Firstly, you see all of the different stages that you have to go through. Here will be the section for the missions of mastery and how long it's going to take me. This section here is the grind and how long it would take me playing just generically on my free-to-play account, some stock tanks, some elite tanks, 600 base average experience. And then here I estimate how long it's going to take me to be able to complete the mission marathon on my free-to-play account and all of the rewards that are available. So firstly, there's something very important that I must clarify if you're planning to be able to undertake this marathon and you want to just grind it and don't want to play your Tier 9 and Tier 10 tanks. You have to be amongst the top 10 players on your team via experience, otherwise it won't count at all. So don't think you can rush in blindly and finish 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th or 15th. That's not going to count. You're going to have to play at least reasonably well. And the reason why this is important is because it actually makes it exceedingly difficult for the below average players to be able to complete this challenge compared to the above average players who are very consistently finishing in the top 2/3 of the team. So for all of you veterans out there who are used to doing these challenges, one thing I want to talk about first is what stages that I think are actually going to be targetable in your high tier vehicles and which stages I think the requirements are a bit tricky to be able to do in your Tier 9 and Tier 10 tanks. Okay, so let's start with stage 1. 3,500 damage and you win. That should be easy enough, even in a Tier 9, let alone in a Tier 10 tank. I think that's going to take me a couple of games to do. So I would definitely recommend to try and take your Tier 9 and Tier 10 tanks out for stage 1. Stage 2, top team experience twice. Now, if you're a very good player, that's probably going to be quite easy. You're going to get that in 2, 3, 4, or maybe 5 or 6 games. However, if you're not the best player, I can imagine that that's going to be quite tricky. And you'll probably be best to just grind out the 5,000 base experience playing some Tier 8s or Tier 9s. Stage 3, 850 experience times by 3. This is important to realize that you can't get 850 base experience unless you win. Alternatively, you could lose and get a battle hero medal, like a high caliber or a top gun or something like that, and that actually does count for the base experience. But just keep in mind that while 850 base experience doesn't sound like that much, it's definitely only possible when you're winning. So I still think that's going to take me about 6 games to be able to do, and I would personally play my Tier 9 tanks. For stage 4, it's an interesting one now. Wargaming want you to do 15% of the total damage caused by your team 7 times. Now that one, it's a little bit more complicated when you first think about it, right? Because you could actually lose and your team could only destroy half of the enemy tanks, and then that would make it very much easier for you to be able to achieve that. If we think that most Tier 10 tanks have roughly about 2,000 hit points, and there are 15 tanks a team, that means there's 30,000 hit points. And so if your team only manages to destroy half of the enemy vehicles, then that's only about 15,000 damage dealt. And for you to be able to get 15% of that means that you'll have to do 2,250 damage. However, as a rule of thumb, to be able to achieve that, if all of the enemy tanks are killed, you're going to have to do about 4,000 to 4,500 minimum damage in a Tier 10 game. So it doesn't sound too tricky, but when you've got to do it 7 times, it could take a while. Nevertheless, compared to the 17,000 base experience grind, I think this one could be a good one to target, either in tier 9 or tier 10 tanks. Next up, stage 5. You have to finish top of both teams based on damage, and you have to do more than 3,200. This is where I feel like it starts to get a little bit more tricky. I think that's going to take me about 32 games to be able to do. That's still significantly less than the 53 that it would take me to be able to grind through. But if you're playing your best kind of vehicles to be able to try and achieve that, you're going to be able to grind through that anyway. It's just you don't really have the luxury of playing your tier 8 premiums if you want to try and do the missions for mastery. Stage 6 will be top team experience 900 plus, which means that effectively you can't lose. So I think this one's going to start to be where I would probably rather grind my tier 8s unless I get a good run of games at the beginning and then I want to try and chance my way through it. Stage 7 is 4,500 damage 9 times. I think this could be a really good stage to try and target. If you're playing your very competitive vehicles, I think you could probably do that 1 in 3 games at least, and that will under half the time that it will take you to be able to grind out the 32,000 base experience. So this is one of my most recommended stages. If you're a tier 10 player and you can do some damage, go for it. The only thing you got to worry about during these events is that you're probably not the only one trying to play your best tanks to be able to grind through it, right? And you're going to be playing against a lot of 279Es and a lot of chieftains. And if that happens and you end up getting frustrated, I would recommend just giving up on trying to do it and going back and playing your premium vehicles. Next up, stage 8. You've got to finish top experience of both teams 15 times. I think that's going to actually take me just as long, if not longer, to be able to achieve than it would do for me to be able to just grind through the base experience. Would thoroughly recommend ignoring that stage in your tier 9 or tier 10 tanks, unless you just want to play them anyway. Stage 9, top team damage 28 times. I think you could save a little bit of time here, but when you've got to do it 28 times, to have to play just only tier 9 and tier 10 28 times, or probably the 60 times in a row that you're going to have to play them, seems so boring. I'd probably rather play tier 8 and not worry about that. Same for stage 10. Top team experience 35 times. It's always weird for me that Wargaming put these requirements in where you literally have to play at least 30, but more likely 60 times to be able to complete a single stage, when I think you'd do far better to just go and grind credits in your tier 6, tier 7, tier 8 premiums, or even I guess you could play the Stridsvagn K, right? Although that's definitely not the most competitive vehicle to try and grind through it as well. And so all in all, for all of you very competitive tier 9 and tier 10 players out there, I would thoroughly recommend trying to do stage 1, 2, and 3. You could smash through those in even an hour if you get a good run of games. Consider about whether you want to do stage 4, 5, and 6, but I would definitely recommend targeting stage 7 because you're not even in competition with everyone else from a placing perspective. All you got to do is just try and rock up and do that 4,500 damage. Okay, so now all of you competitive tier 9 and tier 10 players are covered. How about for all of you out there who just want to play your tier 6 tanks, tier 7s, tier 8s, or maybe you just want to play your tier 9s and tier 10s casually and be able to see how much of a grind you can be able to get through? Well, all of you are covered in this table. If you are somebody who achieves 100 base average experience per game, then I think you're going to have to play 5,000 games over the 10-day period, 500 games in total. Yeah, 50 hours of World of Tanks in every 24-hour period, probably not going to happen. Let's look a bit more realistically at somebody who gets 400 base experience. I estimate that somebody who gets 400 base experience is probably going to finish in the top two-thirds of the time, i.e. an average player. That still means that 1 in 3 of the games that you play is not even really going to count. Well, not really, it's not going to count. Which means that the amount of time that you have to put in is actually substantially longer than you would think. And so you're going to have to play 96 games every day, and if you want to get the tank fully discounted, you're going to have to put in 9.5 hours every single day over the 10-day period. Now let's look at me when I'm playing on my free-to-play account, and I'm kind of playing some stock tanks, playing some of my good tanks to mix it up. I'm going to get 600 average base experience, so that means that I'm going to have to play 556 games. That's 5.5 hours every day to be able to complete the challenge. Alternatively, let's look at the players out there who are playing competitively. You know, you're having a good run of games, you're getting 800 base experience, you're going to have to play 37 games a day. That is just over 3.5 hours every day. This next sheet I have for you shows exactly how much kind of money you're getting back through investing your time, as if you were achieving the kind of things that I do on my free-to-play account. I would thoroughly recommend that everybody plays at least the first 3 stages before they consider purchasing the package. Even if you want to gain access to Chapter 2 to get the skin at a cheaper rate, I would still recommend at least log in and play the game a little bit, because you're going to have to complete the mission anyway. So play for a few hours, and then you can start with a 30% discount off the package before you even consider to buy it. If you play stage 1, 2, and 3, you're effectively going to be grinding at 10 euros an hour for the first stage down to 3.5 euros. But we can see that as the stages progressively get harder and harder and harder, you're kind of making €1 an hour for stage 4, 5, and 6. And then you're dropping down to the depths of despair for, 0.63 euro cents an hour for stage 10. So that's definitely, hopefully gives you an idea of the kind of mark where you might want to consider getting out the credit card if you want to avoid just chonking away loads of time into it. All right, now let's talk about the AltProto 30 and how it compares to the previous challenge of the Stridsvagn K. It's actually significantly easier, 4.5% easier than the Stridsvagn K, and that's because you have to just grind less experience. Probably for the Stridsvagn K, Wargaming made the challenge a little bit harder to see if they could make us play more to be able to get the tier 9 tank, a premium, first ever tier 9 premium after all. Now Wargaming have returned the grinding to as it was for the 122 TM and the Kampfpanzer. So if you manage to complete those challenges but the Stridsvagn K just felt like a bit too grueling, well, know that the AltProto AMX 30 is back to that kind of difficulty, but it's still not nearly as good as it was for that magical TS5 challenge where you could do it as a really good player in less than 3 hours a day, and even the casual players had an opportunity to be able to do it as well. Now I want to give a passing mention to Chapter 2 of the challenge. Chapter 2 is something that becomes unlocked after you manage to complete Chapter 1. If you decide to purchase the package on day 1, as you can do in the premium store, it's definitely not the best use of your money, but the advantage is that you're going to be able to play daily missions for the subsequent 10 days to be able to get this style for free, which is called the Char de Chastel. I think it looks a little less glamorous than the previous skins. I do like the crossbow on the back. It is, I feel, a little bit less contrasty and vibrant. Obviously, I would use it on this tank rather than the base look that we had. But is it worth purchasing for 5,000 gold? Probably not. I think that the standard look on this vehicle will be more than enough. It's worth mentioning that you do get some quite nice rewards if you play on those days. For example, you can get universal manuals, which are worth 2 million credits, 3 days of premium if you play on the 28th of November. And then for the final Saturday of the event, you can even get yourself 3 days of premium and a universal manual there. Now, if you want to be able to get the style that I showed you for a complete discount, then in theory, you would have to play every single day from the 28th of November. And so if you were incredibly try-hard, what you could do is do as many of the stages during the first weekend, the Friday, the Saturday, the Sunday, that you can, and then towards the end of the day, you could purchase the rest of the stages and then make sure you've got enough time to be able to win 4 battles in the tank, which might take you at least an hour or 2. And then you'll be able to do hopefully all of the daily missions every single one of the days to be able to get a full 100% discount off the style. Alternatively, if you don't really care about the discount, you can just purchase it for 5,000 gold. For me, on my free-to-play account, there's no way I'm going to purchase this style, and there's no way that I'm going to try and do the entirety of the marathon in the first 3 days. What my plan is going to be is to try and finish the marathon on the Saturday before it ends, and then complete that mission to still be able to get access to 3 days of premium and a crew book, which is definitely a very nice reward. So ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, there you have it. That is the Legend of the Hunter challenge. Now, I'm going to say, as I say every single time I do one of these challenge videos, please be careful if you undertake this challenge. If you start to play anything too much, something that was fun can now start to feel like a job. There's no doubt that Wargaming are trying as hard as they can to make you feel that the challenge is easy at the beginning and then ramp up the difficulty at the end to try and hope that you feel like you've committed to the challenge already, and then you just use your credit card to be able to get out of the final bit of homework that you've got to do. Be warned that even after you complete stage 7, you are only just about to be halfway through the challenge. And so the final 3 stages take as long as the first 7 combined. As somebody who's completed 9 of these challenges before on my free-to-play account, I can tell you the only way that you're going to be able to get through this is if you literally schedule time in every single day to be able to play and work out how long you're going to have to play over the remaining days to be able to get through it. Because if you get behind, it can be very tricky to be able to catch up and it can affect your mental. Just remember that the AltProto AMX 30 is just like every other tier 8 premium tank. It's there as a tool to be able to make you credits and to be able to hopefully get some crew training. It's just pixels in your garage. Do you really think that it's something that you absolutely have to have? Certainly not. And so if you've got better things to be doing in your life, then don't let World of Tanks try and take you away from them. Alternatively, these challenges are a real good opportunity for players with a lot of time on their hands to be able to get some real cool goodies completely for free, albeit that they've invested a lot of time into it. Maybe they were going to play World of Tanks anyway for that long. Or for the, shall we say, casual World of Tanks player who still has that steady job and has some cash to be able to throw in the game, a good opportunity to get a real good discount off a decent enough package. And considering the days are short and the weather is absolutely frigid out there, I'm going to be undertaking this challenge on my free-to-play account. And so if you're going to be grinding and you need a buddy along with you, then feel free to drop by my stream. You can hear me QQ as I realize just how much time I'm going to have to spend playing on my free-to-play account, which I haven't done in a while. Anyway, ladies and gents, boys and girls, that was it for today. Really hope you enjoyed this video, or more that it was useful for you, gave you an idea of how hard the challenge is, gave you an idea of which stages you should try and target in your tier 9 and tier 10 tanks, and hopefully helped you with the strategy about what day you should try and actually finish the challenge on to be able to still get the most out of that discount on the style, or alternatively to just target the best chapter 2 rewards. If it did, make sure you give the video a thumbs up, but if you hated it, give it a thumbs down, and I look forward to seeing you all through the challenge. Yeah, so I'm going to have to be streaming for about 40 hours over the next 10 days. And finally, I'd like to give a heads up to the community post that I think I made probably an hour or a couple of hours ago after this video goes up, that as the VK2801 is going to be returning tomorrow with the 105mm, I'm going to be running a challenge on the European server where I'm giving away 50,000 gold. It is half, the other half of that challenge that all of you helped me to be able to win. You know, the one where I asked you to log into your accounts in World of Tanks and Wargaming gave me 100,000 gold. Well, I've already given away 50k of it to the KV2 players, and now I'm going to be giving 50k of it away to the VK2801 players. And if you're concerned that you're not going to have played the game long enough to be able to get the new reward tank with the 105mm, don't worry, because you can still play the tech tree variant if you want to. And I'll put a link probably in a comment down below where you can go through and register. And yeah, hopefully I'll see you tomorrow. It's going to be a real funky stream. And as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.